okay? home, I didn't fit in. I thought Earth was the problem. But what if it's me?
Well, I like you. You seem fine to me.
I never had a friend before.
Me neither. Up top.
I am Grygon, prepared to be conquered.
But I just...
Friends, if you want to watch the much-awaited animated film Elio, 2025, in English, then make sure to hit the like button on this video. And if you're visiting our channel Facts and Review for the first time, don't forget to subscribe and press the bell icon so you never miss an update. In today's video, we're going to talk about Elio, 2025, a movie that has captured the attention of animation fans and Disney lovers across the globe. We'll cover everything from what this movie is all about, where you can watch it, and all the interesting facts that make this film truly special. I'll be sharing detailed information about which OTT platform or satellite channel will feature this movie and the best way to experience it. We'll also take a deep dive into the technical aspects of the film, including the music, voice cast, animation production, pre-production work, post-production, budget, and expected box office performance. Not just that, I'll also talk about the storyline of Elio, give you a short review, and highlight the unique concept of a boy being mistaken for the ambassador of Earth by aliens. We'll break down the performances of the voice actors, what role each character plays, and the creative vision behind this film. So friends, stay with us till the end of the video, because if you're a fan of animated sci-fi adventures or Pixar storytelling magic, this video is definitely for you. So let's begin. Elio, 2025. Plot and narrative analysis from a third-person perspective. Elio, 2025, directed by Adrian Molina and produced by Pixar Animation Studios, follows a classic yet imaginative science fiction storyline infused with Pixar's signature emotional depth and visual wonder. The film centers around a young boy named Elio Solis, who is unexpectedly thrust into an intergalactic adventure and mistakenly identified as the ambassador of Earth by an alien coalition known as the Communiverse. Narrative structure. The story adheres largely to a conventional three-act structure, but it distinguishes itself with its whimsical tone, childlike perspective, and a deep emotional core. Unlike many Pixar films that ground themselves in reality before expanding into fantasy, Elio jumps early into its cosmic setting, allowing audiences to explore the universe alongside its protagonist. Act 1. The Ordinary World and the Inciting Incident. The film opens with 11-year-old Elio, a socially awkward, imaginative child who feels like an outsider in his own world. He struggles with self-confidence and fitting in. He lives with his mother, Olga Solis, a high-ranking government scientist who works on top-secret extraterrestrial communication programs. The inciting incident occurs when Elio accidentally makes first contact with the Communiverse through his mother's experimental technology. Mistaken for Earth's official representative, Elio is teleported into deep space, a chaotic and colorful intergalactic summit where beings from across galaxies gather. Act 2. Exploration, Identity and Conflict. In the second act, Elio finds himself surrounded by a council of alien leaders, each bizarre yet fascinating. They expect him to explain Earth's culture, purpose, and values, something he is completely unprepared for. This phase introduces the central conflict. Elio must prove himself as Earth's ambassador or risk being labeled a fraud by the galaxy. Here, Pixar begins to layer its emotional themes: self-discovery, belonging, and bravery. Elio, who once felt voiceless on Earth, now has the responsibility of speaking for an entire planet. He fabricates stories at first, trying to impress the council, but these lies eventually lead to further complications. During this journey, he encounters various alien characters, some comical, some hostile, each representing different worldviews and testing Elio's wit, empathy, and honesty. His relationship with Olga also develops, as she attempts to reach him from Earth, offering support and guidance through their fractured communication link. Act 3. Revelation, Sacrifice and Resolution. In the final act, Elio faces a critical moment of truth, when the Communiverse uncovers that he is not a trained ambassador but just a child. The tension peaks when it seems like Elio will be punished or Earth might be cast out of the Communiverse entirely. But instead of punishment, Elio wins their admiration by speaking from the heart, expressing human vulnerability, imagination, and kindness. His genuine honesty, emotional intelligence, and personal growth make the aliens see humanity not as a threat or a joke, but as a species with potential. The climax is both triumphant and touching. Elio returns to Earth transformed, no longer the boy who didn't belong, but a young hero who discovered strength in being himself. Thematic impact and emotional resonance. Elio is at its core a story about identity, acceptance, and the universal search for connection. The film takes a grand science fiction premise but grounds it in deeply human emotions. Feeling like an outsider, wanting to be seen, and learning that authenticity is more powerful than pretense. It also subtly critiques adult institutions, government, diplomacy, politics, through the lens of childlike wonder, reminding audiences that imagination and sincerity can sometimes succeed where bureaucracy fails. Conclusion. In summary, Elio, 2025, blends a classic hero's journey with Pixar's emotional storytelling and sci-fi adventure. Its plot moves in a linear structure, but the richness lies in its visual metaphors, emotional beats, and the balance between humor and heart. Elio's journey from misfit to galactic hero delivers a strong message. You don't have to be perfect to be important. You just have to be yourself. Elio Solis, the heart of the story. Character overview. Elio is an 11-year-old boy who feels like a misfit on Earth. He is imaginative, introverted, and struggles with confidence and social acceptance. He is not the typical heroic figure. He's not brave, strong, or skilled in diplomacy. And that is precisely what makes his arc so powerful. Character arc. At the beginning of the film, Elio is isolated and insecure. He often retreats into his imagination to escape feelings of rejection and alienation. But when he's mistakenly transported to the Communiverse and declared Earth's ambassador, he's forced out of his comfort zone and into a position of unexpected responsibility. Elio's journey is one of self-discovery and empowerment. Initially, he tries to fabricate stories to impress the alien council, but as the narrative progresses, he learns that authenticity, emotional intelligence, and compassion are his true strengths. By the end of the film, Elio returns to Earth with a deeper sense of self-worth and purpose. His inner transformation, from a boy who hides behind stories to a young person who speaks his truth, is deeply moving and thematically rich. 2. Olga Solis, the grounding force. Character overview. Olga is Elio's mother and a government scientist working on top-secret communication with extraterrestrial life. She is a single parent, intelligent, caring, and driven by duty, both to her country and her son. Character arc. Olga begins as someone caught between the roles of mother and scientist. While she loves Elio deeply, her dedication to her work causes emotional distance between them. However, her character grows alongside Elio's journey. When he is pulled into the Communiverse, Olga's maternal instincts override protocol, and she becomes emotionally vulnerable, fighting to reconnect with her son. Through this crisis, Olga softens and becomes more emotionally present. Her arc explores the balance between responsibility and personal connection, and her eventual emotional openness strengthens the mother-son bond that is central to the film's emotional weight. 3. The Alien Council, symbolic and evolving. Character overview. The Communiverse is made up of various alien species, each representing different ideologies, temperaments, and expectations. Initially, these characters serve as comic relief and plot drivers, but they evolve into a collective symbol of the universe's perception of Earth. Development and function. As the story unfolds, the Council shifts from a skeptical and judgmental group to one that listens, empathizes, and embraces diversity. Elio's honesty and emotional authenticity challenge their assumptions, leading to their transformation. In this way, the alien characters represent society's broader biases and capacity for change when confronted with genuine humanity. 4. Supporting characters, a tapestry of influence. While Elio and Olga are the emotional anchors of the film, the secondary alien characters, including a few recurring figures like a stern diplomatic leader, a curious scholar, and a mischievous sidekick, add color and complexity. These characters test Elio's morals, force him into reflection, and gradually become mirrors to his growth. Their interactions are not just humorous but also reflective of different emotional archetypes: fear of change, thirst for knowledge, desire for control, and childlike curiosity. These alien personalities push the narrative forward while supporting the emotional undercurrents of Elio's journey. Themes reflected in character growth. Identity and belonging. Elio's arc revolves around understanding that belonging doesn't come from fitting in, but from embracing who you are. Parent-child relationships. Olga and Elio's evolving bond adds emotional depth and universality to the narrative. Empathy over ego. Characters across the galaxy learn that vulnerability and openness are more valuable than status or perfection. Conclusion. The character development in Elio, 2025, is one of its strongest storytelling elements. The film offers a deeply emotional and layered portrayal of a young boy's transformation from a shy dreamer into a voice for an entire planet, not through force or intellect, but through empathy, honesty, and inner strength. The supporting characters, especially his mother and the Alien Council, complement and amplify his journey, creating a rich, emotionally satisfying narrative that resonates long after the credits roll. Elio, 2025, our expanded character development analysis. Pixar's Elio is not merely a space adventure. At its core, it's a coming-of-age story about identity, vulnerability, and emotional growth. Each character, especially Elio and his mother Olga, undergoes meaningful transformation, allowing the film to speak on both an intimate and universal level. Glowing Star 1. Elio Solis, the dreamer who finds his voice. Initial personality and emotional struggles. Elio is portrayed as a highly imaginative, sensitive, and introverted child who feels disconnected from the world around him. He is not bullied, but he is misunderstood, the kind of child who would rather daydream or draw than interact socially. His rich inner life becomes both a shield and a prison. He wants to belong, but he doesn't know how to fit in, not in school, not with peers, and at times, not even with his mother. Motivations and internal conflict. At the heart of Elio's character is a desire to be seen, heard, and accepted. This motivation drives many of his decisions in the Communiverse. When he is accidentally seen as Earth's ambassador, he grabs the opportunity to finally matter, but is ill-equipped for the role. He initially pretends to be confident and knowledgeable, crafting exaggerated or fictional stories about Earth to impress the alien coalition. However, these fabrications eventually lead him into moral and emotional conflict, forcing him to confront the difference between being liked and being authentic. Growth and transformation. Elio's arc is slow and nuanced. Through his interactions with alien beings, many of whom are more open-minded than humans, he learns that being vulnerable is not a weakness, but a strength. He begins to embrace the very things that made him feel like an outsider on Earth: his honesty, creativity, and emotional sensitivity. By the climax, when the truth about his identity is revealed, Elio doesn't collapse under the weight of shame. Instead, he delivers a heartfelt speech that moves even the most rigid alien leaders. He learns that leadership doesn't require perfection, just courage, sincerity, and a willingness to understand others. This shift completes his transformation from passive dreamer to active emotional leader. Woman #microscope 2. Olga Solis, the scientist and the mother. Initial role and dual identity. Olga Solis is a dual character. She is both a high-ranking government scientist and a single mother. While deeply loving, she initially comes across as distant and pragmatic, shaped by a world that values facts over feelings. Her relationship with Elio is strained, not because of neglect, but due to their differing worldviews. She believes in structure and rationality, while Elio thrives on imagination and emotion. Emotional conflict and development. When Elio is taken by the Communiverse, Olga is faced with the terrifying possibility of losing her son, emotionally and physically. This event acts as a catalyst for her own internal transformation. She begins to question her approach to parenting, realizing that her emotional restraint may have contributed to Elio's feelings of isolation. She is forced to navigate both political pressure and emotional guilt. Through a subplot involving her attempts to reach Elio from Earth via a scientific communication channel, she begins expressing more warmth, vulnerability, and openness. Resolution of arc. By the end of the film, Olga has grown into a more balanced version of herself. She no longer sees Elio's imagination as a flaw, but as a gift. Her final reunion with Elio is heartfelt and honest, marking the healing of their emotional distance. The film portrays her as a fully dimensional woman, a capable leader in her field and a mother who has learned to emotionally connect with her child. Alien Head 3. The Alien Council, Mirrors of Human Judgment. Role in the narrative. The Alien Council is a collective of diverse, exaggerated characters representing different parts of the galactic community. While some are logical and stern, others are playful, skeptical, curious, or even dismissive. Initially, they serve as antagonists, judging Elio's competence and questioning Earth's right to be part of the Communiverse. Symbolic purpose. Each member of the Council symbolizes real-world themes. Prejudice and misunderstanding. Some aliens distrust Elio based on appearance or youth. Bureaucracy versus intuition. The strict procedural nature of some species highlights the contrast with Elio's organic, emotional intelligence. Curiosity and openness. Others embrace him, seeing beyond facts and into his intent. Transformation. By the end, the council softens. Elio's emotional honesty disarms them. Their arc reflects society's ability to evolve when exposed to genuine human expression. They don't just accept Elio. They begin to question their own rigid systems, showing that transformation is not exclusive to the protagonist. Robot Phase 4. Side characters, catalysts for growth. Several minor alien characters, such as a quirky alien translator, a skeptical robotic advisor, or a blob-like creature with emotional sensitivity, serve to challenge or support Elio's development. These characters are not deeply developed individually but serve as important emotional and symbolic stepping stones. Their roles range from comic relief to emotional mirrors, with each pushing Elio toward his next turning point, whether by misunderstanding him, supporting him, or forcing him to make a choice. Themes reflected through character development. Belonging and identity. Elio's arc is rooted in realizing he doesn't have to change who he is to belong. He simply needs to embrace who he already is. Emotional intelligence versus authority. The film celebrates empathy and vulnerability as qualities of leadership, challenging the notion that age or power define wisdom. Parenting and understanding. Olga's transformation highlights how emotional availability can be more meaningful than control or instruction. Communication and connection. Across different species and perspectives, the characters ultimately show that meaningful connection comes through shared emotions, not shared facts. Clapperboard final thoughts. Elio, 2025, crafts an emotionally rich universe where character development is as expansive as the galaxy itself. Elio's transformation is not about becoming a savior, but about learning that his emotions, flaws, and voice matter. Olga's journey complements this by reminding adults that love needs to be shown, not just assumed. The Alien Council, meanwhile, mirrors societal judgments and shows how even the most complex systems can evolve through empathy. This depth of character growth turns Elio from a simple sci-fi tale into a powerful story of personal growth, emotional intelligence, and universal connection, a hallmark of Pixar's storytelling at its best. Elio, 2025, a performances analysis, from a third-person perspective. While Elio, 2025, is an animated feature, its emotional resonance and storytelling power heavily rely on the quality of its voice performances. Pixar has long understood that in animation, voice acting is not just about reading lines. It's about channeling emotion, intention, and rhythm in a way that gives animated characters soul. Elio continues that legacy, with a central cast that delivers subtle, emotionally nuanced, and sometimes even transcendent performances. Glowing Star 1. Jonas Kibrib as Elio Solis, a star-making performance. Overview. As the voice behind the title character, Jonas Kibrib carries the emotional weight of the film. His performance is the anchor around which everything else revolves, and he rises to the challenge with exceptional sensitivity and charisma. Emotional range. Kibrib captures the essence of a child teetering between vulnerability and inner strength. From scenes where Elio stumbles nervously through first contact with aliens, to heartfelt moments of introspection and courage, Kibrib's voice always feels authentic. He brings a softness to Elio that makes his triumphs more meaningful and his fears more real. Standout moments. His hesitant, imaginative monologues when describing Earth to the aliens, filled with both awe and anxiety. The climactic speech where Elio defends the human spirit with raw honesty. It's delivered with such conviction that it becomes one of the emotional high points of the film. Verdict. Jonas Kibrib's performance doesn't feel like a typical child actor role. It feels lived in, real, and deeply human. A breakout performance that will likely draw critical acclaim and audience empathy. Woman #Microscope 2. America Ferrera as Olga Solis, a grounded, maternal strength. Overview. America Ferrera lends her voice to Olga Solis, Elio's scientist mother. Ferrera's performance is restrained yet emotionally powerful, balancing the character's professional demeanor with layers of maternal warmth and vulnerability. Performance depth. Olga is not a stereotypical overprotective mother. She is intelligent, composed, and driven. Ferrera portrays this well, using a firm yet compassionate tone that evolves as the story unfolds. Her arc from detached professionalism to emotional openness is reflected beautifully in the gradual softening of her voice across the film. Standout moments. Early scenes where Olga attempts to comfort Elio with logic, not affection, capturing the disconnect in their relationship. Later scenes of desperation and longing as she fights to reconnect with her son through broken communication channels. Verdict. Ferrera's grounded performance adds emotional realism to the sci-fi plot. Her delivery supports the mother-son dynamic that lies at the heart of the film's emotional journey. Alien Head 3. Supporting cast, a galaxy of distinctive voices. The film features a diverse alien council with a range of unique personalities, brought to life by a talented supporting cast. Each actor adds not only humor and texture but also emotional layers that make the intergalactic characters feel believable and expressive. While not all supporting cast members have been publicly confirmed as of mid-2025, the ensemble is reportedly made up of seasoned voice actors and guest stars from various entertainment backgrounds. Key supporting performances. A deep-voiced alien leader delivers his lines with Shakespearean gravitas, symbolizing institutional authority. A curious, high-pitched alien scholar injects energy and humor with rapid-fire delivery and wonderstruck intonation. A silent or nonverbal alien communicates through electronic modulation or expressive sounds, a clever use of non-traditional voice work that still conveys emotion. These performances, while brief compared to the leads, contribute significantly to the world-building and narrative dynamics. They act as mirrors and challenges to Elio's emotional growth, and the distinctive vocal choices help differentiate species, cultures, and personalities. Performing arts voice direction and tone consistency. The voice direction, overseen by Pixar's experienced creative team, ensures that all performances fit within a consistent tonal universe. Despite the film's mix of emotional realism, comedy, and cosmic whimsy, the actors never feel out of sync with the world they inhabit. Transitions between comedy and sincerity, a staple of Pixar storytelling, are handled smoothly through performance. Moments of alien absurdity never undercut the emotional truth of Elio's journey, thanks to careful modulation in delivery from all involved. Headphone impact on emotional depth and believability. One of Elio's most impressive feats is how the performances enhance its emotional believability, despite its fantastical setting. Elio's loneliness is voiced so gently that even viewers from very different backgrounds can relate. Olga's inner conflict as both a mother and scientist is expressed through careful shifts in tone. Alien Council members feel real not because of CGI design, but because of the authenticity behind their voices. Together, these performances flesh out the emotional spine of the film and create a cast of characters who feel real, despite never appearing in live action. Clapperboard conclusion. In Elio, 2025, the voice performances are not just functional, they are integral to the film's emotional success. Jonas Kabrib delivers a nuanced, heartfelt portrayal of a boy growing into himself, while America Ferrera adds depth and maturity to the mother figure. The supporting cast adds color, humor, and emotional resonance to the cosmic backdrop. Through expressive voice acting, Pixar once again proves that animation can carry the same emotional depth, if not more, than live-action storytelling. The performances elevate the film from a clever space comedy to a deeply moving story about identity, courage, and connection. Elio, 2025, Direction Analysis, from a third-person perspective. Directed by Adrian Molina, co-director of Pixar's Oscar-winning Coco, Elio, 2025, is a heartfelt space odyssey that combines visual imagination with emotional intimacy. Molina's direction is key to balancing these two seemingly opposite tones, delivering a story that feels vast in scope, yet deeply personal at its core. His creative decisions shape Elio into not just another animated sci-fi film, but a distinctive, emotionally resonant cinematic experience. Performing Arts 1. Tonal balance, cosmic wonder meets emotional depth. Tone and mood. From the outset, Molina sets a tone that blends childlike curiosity with universal themes of identity and belonging. Unlike darker sci-fi adventures, Elio adopts a mood that is bright, hopeful, and introspective. The film often uses soft lighting, ethereal score transitions, and gentle camera movements to evoke a dreamlike atmosphere, especially when Elio is navigating alien environments. However, Molina doesn't shy away from emotional gravity. Through quiet, dialogue-heavy scenes, particularly between Elio and his mother Olga, he brings a real-world emotional authenticity that contrasts beautifully with the film's fantastical backdrop. The tone is never overwhelmed by spectacle. Instead, it uses spectacle to serve the emotional core. Artist palette 2. Stylistic choices, visual storytelling with symbolic layers. Color palette and visual language. Molina makes thoughtful use of contrasting color schemes to separate Earth and the comm-universe. Earth is presented in grounded, warm tones, oranges, browns, and soft sunlight, evoking familiarity and emotional weight. In contrast, the alien world bursts with luminous, neon hues, purples, blues, glowing greens, reflecting Elio's disorientation and the surreal nature of his new reality. One of Molina's standout stylistic techniques is using scale to reflect emotion. When Elio feels small, the frame expands around him, whether it's a school hallway or an alien courtroom. When he begins to assert himself, the camera slowly pulls in, making his presence feel larger. Symbolic imagery. Molina integrates subtle symbolic motifs throughout. Mirrors and reflections show Elio's internal identity struggle. Floating objects or gravity-defying shots emphasize Elio's feeling of disconnection, emotionally and physically. Circular architecture and framing in the communiverse represents the idea of unity, perspective, and universality. Clock #3. Pacing, a deliberate rhythm of growth and wonder. Narrative flow. Molina uses a measured, character-driven pace. Rather than rushing from one action sequence to another, he allows scenes to breathe, especially those involving emotional revelation. Early scenes on Earth are slower, reflective of Elio's isolation and the monotony of his life. Once transported to the communiverse, the tempo picks up, mirroring his internal turmoil and the overwhelming nature of the alien society. Yet even in the fast-paced second act, the director makes room for quiet introspection, such as moments when Elio interacts one-on-one with alien beings, giving the audience time to absorb new information and emotions. Climactic build. The third act is paced for emotional crescendo, not just spectacle. The climax does not revolve around physical action or destruction, but instead centers on a pivotal emotional decision, a moment of truth where Elio must speak from the heart. Molina carefully builds tension around this scene through silence, tight framing, and minimal movement, allowing Elio's voice to carry maximum impact. Mover Camera 4. Shot composition, framing emotion in an expansive universe. Despite being animated, Molina uses cinematic shot composition techniques that rival live-action direction. Over-the-shoulder perspectives draw viewers into Elio's conversations, making them feel present. Low-angle shots emphasize power dynamics, particularly in scenes between Elio and the alien council. Wide shots of the galactic landscapes are used to induce awe, while close-ups ground the emotional stakes. One particularly impactful choice is how Elio is often visually isolated in the frame early on, a technique that subtly reinforces his loneliness. As the story progresses and he connects with others, he is framed alongside companions and in more integrated spaces, symbolizing emotional growth and belonging. Milky Way 5. Narrative vision, a sci-fi film with a human soul. What makes Molina's direction especially effective is his ability to keep the emotional heart of the story in focus. Despite the intergalactic setting, this is ultimately a tale about a boy discovering self-worth and a mother learning to connect. The alien landscapes, strange characters, and cosmic designs never overshadow that emotional core. Molina treats his young protagonist with respect, not as a comic relief or sidekick, but as a fully realized human being navigating complex emotions. The narrative arc, shaped by this vision, becomes one of empowerment, empathy, and the message that being different doesn't mean you're wrong, it means you're essential. 6. Directional themes and emotional layering. Molina masterfully weaves themes into the very fabric of the direction. Imposter syndrome, through Elio's self-doubt and accidental leadership role. Communication and understanding, highlighted by Elio's struggle to explain humanity to aliens, mirroring how misunderstood he feels in his own world. Parental connection, explored through the contrast between emotional and intellectual parenting, with Olga's evolution from logic-driven protector to emotionally vulnerable mother. He builds these themes visually and tonally, without relying on overt exposition, a mark of confident, intelligent storytelling. Bullseye conclusion. Under Adrian Molina's direction, Elio, 2025, transcends the limits of a typical animated sci-fi film. It becomes a deeply personal and emotionally laid journey, skillfully balancing humor, spectacle, and sincere introspection. Molina's stylistic choices, from symbolic visuals to careful pacing and framing, are subtle yet powerful tools that amplify the narrative's emotional core. The result is a film that feels both timeless and timely, a story about identity and empathy that's delivered with artistic care and narrative clarity. Molina proves once again that great animation doesn't just entertain, it elevates the human spirit. Elio, 2025, cinematography analysis, from a third-person perspective. Although Elio, 2025, is an animated film, it employs cinematic language and techniques traditionally associated with live-action cinematography, including carefully constructed camera angles, symbolic lighting, visual framing, and shot composition. These visual tools, under the creative guidance of Pixar's digital cinematographers and art direction team, are masterfully used to shape not just the visual beauty of the film, but also its emotional and narrative depth. Clapperboard 1. Framing and composition. Emotion through visual space. The film's framing is a key element in expressing Elio's emotional journey. The visual storytelling follows a progression that mirrors his transformation from an isolated child to a confident voice of humanity. Black down arrow # early visual isolation. In the first act, Elio is frequently framed alone in wide shots, walking through empty hallways, sitting in oversized rooms, or framed at the bottom of the screen with lots of negative space. These compositional choices visually reinforce his loneliness, insignificance, and feelings of being misunderstood. Black up arrow # evolving composition. As Elio begins to connect with alien beings and discover his voice, the cinematography shifts to tighter, more centered compositions, often placing Elio in balanced frames, frequently with others in close proximity. This reflects his emotional growth and increasing sense of belonging. Milky Way 2. Camera movement and angles, perspective and empathy. Even in animation, Pixar simulates realistic camera movement to draw the audience into the scene, and Elio uses this to great effect. Bullseye subjective POV. Throughout the film, the camera often mimics Elio's point of view, especially during his arrival into the communiverse. Sweeping dolly shots, slow zooms, and sudden tilts are used to convey his sense of wonder, anxiety, and overwhelm as he explores alien environments. Counterclockwise arrows dynamic angles. Low-angle shots are used when Elio faces alien leaders or moments of pressure, reinforcing his vulnerability and the gravity of his position. High-angle shots make Elio appear small during scenes of doubt or fear. As his confidence builds, the camera begins to tilt upwards subtly, reflecting a shift in power and self-perception. The camera choices not only track physical action, but also emotionally echo Elio's mental and psychological shifts. Shooting Star 3. Lighting, symbolism, mood and transformation. Lighting in Elio serves both atmospheric and symbolic functions, helping to distinguish emotional beats, narrative shifts, and world boundaries. Sunrise Earth, warm and muted tones. Scenes on Earth are bathed in natural, warm lighting, with soft shadows, diffused sunlight, and earthy colors. These visuals evoke a sense of grounding, routine, and familiarity, but also emotional stagnancy in Elio's life. The communiverse, luminous and ethereal. In stark contrast, the communiverse is lit with vibrant, cool neon hues, purples, blues, greens, and glowing whites. This otherworldly lighting underscores the alien nature of the environment, but also reflects Elio's own feelings of alienation and uncertainty. Glow effects in scenes of interstellar council chambers convey majesty and mystery. Soft ambient lighting in private alien encounters brings a sense of safety and intimacy. Dark silhouettes during climactic decisions isolate Elio and force focus on his emotional presence, highlighting his growth and courage. Torch lighting transitions. One of the most beautiful visual strategies is how lighting evolves with character emotion. For instance, in moments where Elio tells a lie, the lighting dims subtly. When he speaks his truth, the environment brightens, visually reinforcing the honesty and clarity of his emotions. Dizzy 4. Visually striking moments, cinematic highlights. Several moments in Elio stand out as visually breathtaking. Milky Way Elio's first arrival in space. The moment Elio is teleported to the communiverse is a visual spectacle. Kaleidoscopic wormholes, slow-motion debris, and celestial flashes create a sense of scale and immersion rarely seen in animated space films. The camera spins gently around him, reflecting both confusion and awe. Shooting Star the Council Chamber. The Alien Council setting is a masterpiece of visual design. Its vertical scale and symmetry, paired with hovering light sources and transparent floor surfaces, creates a surreal, formal, and intimidating mood. The use of extreme wide shots here shows how small and out of place Elio feels, a child placed before the eyes of the universe. Speech balloon emotional monologue climax. During Elio's emotional plea to the council near the end, the lighting dims and a slow inward zoom focuses entirely on Elio's face. The background fades into a gentle blur, placing total emphasis on his voice, expression, and emotional authenticity. It's a striking, minimalist moment, visually simple but emotionally enormous. 5. Cinematography as storytelling language. Unlike typical action-driven animated films, Elio uses its visual tools to reflect internal states, not just external events. The cinematography doesn't just show the world, it shows how Elio feels inside that world. Framing equals identity. Lighting equals truth versus pretense. Angles equals power versus insecurity. Movement equals emotional flow and rhythm. These choices help elevate the narrative beyond plot points, allowing audiences to emotionally inhabit Elio's journey, making the film feel more immersive, empathetic, and sincere. Bullseye conclusion. Elio, 2025, proves that in animation, cinematography can be just as expressive and sophisticated as in live-action filmmaking. Under the artistic guidance of Pixar's visual team and Adrian Molina's emotional direction, the use of camera angles, lighting design, and shot composition becomes a language of its own, one that silently conveys longing, transformation, courage, and connection. Through rich visuals and symbolic cinematography, Elio doesn't just tell a story, it invites the viewer to feel it frame by frame. Elio, 2025, editing and pacing analysis, from a third-person perspective. In Elio, 2025, Pixar crafts a story that unfolds with emotional sensitivity and narrative discipline, largely due to its well-calibrated editing and thoughtful pacing. Under the direction of Adrian Molina and the editorial guidance of Pixar's seasoned post-production team, the film strikes a compelling balance between reflective character moments and dynamic sci-fi spectacle, keeping viewers emotionally grounded while moving the story forward. 1. Editing style: seamless, invisible, and emotionally intelligent. Narrative cohesion. The editing of Elio is not flashy or overly stylized. It's elegant, subtle, and invisible in the best sense of the word. Scenes transition smoothly from one to another, even when jumping between vastly different environments such as Earth and the alien world of the Communiverse. Transitions are often dictated not by plot urgency, but by emotional beats. For instance, when Elio experiences a moment of fear or awe, the edit might linger for a few seconds longer, allowing the viewer to fully absorb his inner state before cutting away. Conversely, moments of narrative tension, such as interactions with the alien council, are cut with quicker momentum, enhancing urgency without sacrificing clarity. Match cuts and visual echoes. The film also utilizes visual continuity techniques, such as match cuts or mirrored transitions, that create visual echoes between Elio's earthly life and his alien experience. For example, a shot of Elio gazing at the stars on Earth may cut to him floating among them in space. A close-up of his emotional expression might be mirrored during a later, more confident moment, reinforcing growth. These editorial choices reinforce the emotional arc without overt exposition. Clock #2. Pacing, a rhythm that respects character growth. Elio follows a 3-act structure with clearly defined emotional and narrative transitions, but within that framework, the pacing remains fluid, human, and responsive to character development. Small Orange Diamond Act I, slow, reflective, introspective. The first act unfolds with a deliberate, slower pace, establishing Elio's world and emotional state. This initial pacing gives weight to his feelings of isolation and makes the sudden shift to the communiverse all the more impactful. Editors allow room for silence, visual storytelling, and subtle interactions, a choice that deepens the emotional groundwork for what's to come. Small Orange Diamond Act II, expansive, curious, and tonally diverse. The second act introduces a vibrant, fast-moving alien world, and with it, the pacing accelerates. However, it does so without losing emotional focus. The editors alternate between energetic scenes of discovery and tension, such as council meetings, humorous alien encounters, and quiet, introspective scenes where Elio reflects or connects with others. This push-pull rhythm prevents the film from feeling either too slow or too frantic, offering moments of levity between emotionally heavy scenes. Small Orange Diamond Act III, tight, focused, and emotionally charged. The final act is paced to mirror Elio's emotional crescendo. The edits become more precise, the narrative more focused, and the scenes more intimate. The climax, a moment of personal truth rather than physical confrontation, is allowed to breathe, with long pauses and reaction shots that emphasize Elio's internal transformation. Emotional timing, editing that enhances feeling. What sets Elio apart is how its editing doesn't just serve the plot, it serves the emotions of the characters. Moments of silence are used effectively to emphasize discomfort, hesitation, or reflection. Rapid montage sequences are sparingly used, such as during Elio's crash course in alien cultures, and edited rhythmically to music to maintain engagement and humor. Cross-cutting between Elio in space and Olga on Earth adds emotional resonance, showing parallel struggles and their evolving bond even when apart. These choices demonstrate a deep understanding of emotional storytelling through timing, a strength Pixar has mastered over decades. Roller Coaster 4. Audience engagement. Does the film drag or rush? The pacing of Elio is intentionally varied, but always anchored to character emotion rather than action for action's sake. There may be brief moments, particularly early in Act I, that feel slow to viewers expecting immediate action. However, this pacing is purposeful, used to build empathy and investment in Elio's world before launching into the spectacle. Once in space, the rhythm quickens naturally. But even here, Elio avoids the pitfalls of over-editing or relentless pace that some modern animations suffer from. Instead, it gives priority to emotional clarity and thematic depth, keeping the audience engaged not just visually, but emotionally. There are no significant sequences that feel rushed or underdeveloped. Each moment is given the right amount of screen time to serve its narrative and emotional function. 5. Editing techniques that enhance thematic impact. Temporal juxtaposition. There are moments where past memories subtly blend with present actions, showing how Elio's past pain informs his current bravery. Smooth interdimensional transitions. Moving between Earth and the comm-universe is handled with creative, seamless transitions, often using light flares, visual echoes, or audio dissolves to maintain continuity. Pacing as reflection of growth. The film's rhythm mirrors Elio's confidence, slow when he is uncertain, quick and assured when he finds his voice. These methods show that editing is used not merely to assemble scenes, but to elevate meaning, tone, and thematic clarity. Bullseye conclusion. The editing and pacing of Elio, 2025, demonstrate Pixar's continued excellence in emotional storytelling through cinematic rhythm. The film's flow is smooth, purposeful, and emotionally driven. Editors use timing, visual continuity, and narrative pacing not just to guide the story, but to deepen the audience's connection to the characters, especially Elio and his journey towards self-discovery. Through its carefully constructed timing, neither rushed nor bloated, Elio maintains viewer engagement from beginning to end, offering a viewing experience that is as emotionally rich as it is visually enchanting. Elio, 2025, soundtrack and score analysis from a third-person perspective. In Elio, 2025, music plays a central role in amplifying the film's emotional landscape and interstellar wonder. The score, composed by Dan Roma, known for Luca, 2021, and Beasts of the Southern Wild, brings a unique emotional clarity to the narrative. Rather than functioning as mere background accompaniment, the music in Elio is woven directly into the emotional architecture of the film. It elevates the storytelling, enhances character arcs, and adds atmospheric depth to both earthbound and galactic settings. Musical Score 1. Musical themes, identity, connection, and wonder. Dan Roma crafts a thematically rich score built around recurring motifs that evolve alongside the characters. Each major theme serves a symbolic and emotional purpose. Globe showing Europe-Africa Elio's theme. A gentle, piano-driven motif paired with soft strings, simple and introspective. This piece underscores Elio's internal loneliness and desire to belong. It recurs throughout the film, subtly transforming as Elio gains confidence and emotional clarity. Early use, melancholic and sparse, evoking his isolation and imaginative mind. Later use, warmer, fuller orchestration as Elio begins to embrace his role in the comm-universe. Final use, a majestic, emotionally climactic arrangement with brass and choir, signaling emotional triumph and self-acceptance. Woman #boy mother-son motif, Olga and Elio. This motif is more subdued, often expressed through low-register cello or soft ambient textures. It plays during moments of emotional tension or connection between Elio and his mother, Olga. Used in scenes of longing, miscommunication, and eventual reconciliation. Acts as a musical tether between two characters separated by distance but bound by love. Alien Head Communiverse soundscape. The alien world is brought to life with an experimental, synthesized score featuring ethereal pads, reversed tones, and non-Western instrumentations. These textures evoke a sense of mystery, dissonance, and eventually unity. Early Alien Council scenes are underscored by dissonant tones and layered rhythms, reflecting cultural friction. As Elio integrates emotionally with alien society, these motifs blend more seamlessly with his personal theme, symbolizing harmony. Speaker with 3 sound waves 2. Atmosphere and world building, from Earth to the stars. Roma's score is essential to the film's bipolar setting, Earth and the comm-universe, and helps define the atmosphere of each. House Earth. Warm acoustic instrumentation, piano, strings, light woodwinds. Music is grounded, restrained, often used sparingly to highlight intimacy. reflects themes of childhood, family, longing, and quiet sadness. Milky Way Communiverse. Spacious and electronic textures, synths, theremin-like glides, alien percussion. Music shifts into more ambient, exploratory modes. Pulsing rhythms and unfamiliar scales mirror Elio's disorientation and wonder. Sound design and score often bleed into one another, creating an immersive sonic environment. This dichotomy, Earth's acoustic warmth versus space's electronic wonder, is a brilliant auditory metaphor for Elio's emotional journey from insecurity to self-discovery. Multiple musical notes. 3. Emotional beats, music as emotional guide. The score does more than fill silence. It guides the audience's feelings. Glowing star key emotional highlights include Elio's abduction scene. The score combines rising strings with glitchy electronic arpeggios to create suspense, awe, and confusion, perfectly capturing Elio's mental state. Elio's speech to the council. Music fades almost entirely during the beginning of his monologue, allowing his voice and vulnerability to dominate. As his speech gains strength, the score swells beneath it, leading to an emotional crescendo that mirrors his internal awakening. Reunion with Olga, a soft reprise of the mother-son motif, gently layered over a warmer version of Elio's theme. The emotional layering here brings catharsis without feeling manipulative. This masterful interplay between silence, melody, and crescendo ensures the music never overwhelms the story. It simply amplifies what's already there. Speaker off. 4. Strategic use of silence. One of the most powerful tools in Elio's soundscape is intentional silence. In moments of emotional pause, such as Elio looking up at the stars or contemplating his place in the universe, Roma and the sound team often strip away the score, allowing ambient sounds or total quiet to take over. This silence serves as a kind of emotional breath, letting the audience reflect alongside the characters. It also creates contrast. When the music returns, its impact is intensified. Musical note. 5. Soundtrack integration, diegetic and non-diegetic harmony. In addition to the orchestral score, Elio subtly includes diegetic music, music that exists within the world of the characters, such as a song Elio listens to alone in his room, tied to his emotional state. A brief alien performance featuring rhythmic, tonal instruments from another planet. These musical moments enrich world-building and reinforce themes of communication and emotional language beyond words. Electric light bulb. 6. Overall musical impact, emotional resonance over spectacle. Unlike some space-themed films that use bombastic orchestras and action-driven scores, Elio opts for a more intimate, emotional musical approach. The score enhances character intimacy, spiritual wonder, thematic depth, cultural contrast and fusion. Roma resists the temptation to go big for the sake of it. Instead, he uses restraint, emotion, and evolution in melody to support the narrative rather than dominate it. Trophy conclusion. The soundtrack and score of Elio, 2025, are vital storytelling components, delicately composed, emotionally aware, and artistically integrated. Composer Dan Roma crafts a sonic world that reflects Elio's journey from self-doubt to self-worth, from earthly insecurity to cosmic connection. Through recurring motifs, ambient textures, symbolic silence, and emotionally resonant crescendos, the music acts as an invisible narrator, carrying the audience through every emotional beat of the film. It never distracts, it deepens the story, leaving a lingering emotional aftertaste long after the credits roll. Elio, 2025, themes and messages from a third-person perspective. Pixar's Elio, 2025, directed by Adrian Molina, is much more than a visually dazzling space adventure. At its core, the film is a rich, emotionally laid narrative that explores universal human themes through the lens of a young boy thrust into an alien world. Using science fiction as metaphor, Elio communicates profound messages about identity, empathy, communication, and belonging, all while maintaining accessibility and heart for audiences of all ages. #1. Identity and self-acceptance. Primary theme. The most dominant thematic current in Elio is the exploration of self-identity, how it is formed, questioned, and ultimately embraced. Elio Solis, the protagonist, is a creative, misunderstood child who often feels out of place, both in his school and his home life. When he is mistakenly identified as Earth's representative by an alien council, his struggle for identity becomes literalized on a galactic scale. He must define himself not just to others, but to himself. Narrative function. Throughout the story, Elio grapples with the imposter syndrome of being the wrong person for the job. Yet as he navigates alien cultures, he learns that authenticity, not expertise, is what earns trust and respect. Effectiveness. The film communicates this theme with subtlety and sincerity. Elio's growth is shown through action, emotion, and interaction, rather than didactic exposition. It resonates especially with younger viewers navigating self-worth, and with adults who have ever felt alien in their own lives. Globe showing Europe Africa 2. Belonging and connection. Core message. One of Elio's most touching themes is the need to belong, not just socially, but spiritually. This is depicted on both personal and interstellar scales. On Earth, Elio is lonely and misunderstood, isolated even from his mother. In the communiverse, although he is an outsider, his emotional honesty bridges cultures and species in ways others cannot. Symbolism. The communiverse becomes a metaphor for a multicultural society, where everyone is different yet still seeking connection. The film suggests that belonging isn't about sameness, it's about understanding. Character arc link. As Elio begins to accept himself, others begin to accept him. His emotional honesty becomes a unifying force, proving that empathy is the strongest universal language. Speech Balloon 3. Communication beyond words. Exploration. The film dives into the complexity of communication, particularly how misunderstandings arise, not just between species, but between people close to us. Elio struggles to express himself clearly to both aliens and his own mother, Olga. The film emphasizes nonverbal communication, tone, presence, empathy, even silence. The alien species use a variety of communication methods, some verbal, others visual or sensory, and Elio's ability to adapt shows that listening is just as important as speaking. Message. Effective communication requires vulnerability, patience, and openness. The film implies that the greatest form of intelligence isn't logic, it's emotional intelligence. Woman #Boy4. Parent-child dynamics and emotional intelligence. Subtextual theme. Through the relationship between Elio and his mother Olga, the film examines the emotional disconnect between generations. Olga is a scientist, logical and task-oriented, while Elio is imaginative and sensitive. The story reflects the common generational gap between emotional needs and practical concerns. Growth. Both characters evolve. Elio learns to express himself with confidence. Olga learns to listen with emotional presence, not just analytical thinking. Their arc demonstrates that healing family bonds requires emotional risk and mutual recognition. Shooting Star 5. Courage in the face of the unknown. Narrative symbolism. The entire premise, a child sent as Earth's ambassador to a galactic council, is a metaphor for confronting the unknown with heart rather than fear. Elio's journey teaches that bravery is not the absence of fear, but the willingness to show up honestly, even when you feel outmatched. That vulnerability is a form of courage, especially when facing judgment from others. This theme resonates in today's world, where young people are asked to represent causes, cultures, or beliefs on large stages, often before they feel ready. Recurring motifs and symbolism. Stars and space represent the vast unknown, both external and internal. Mirrors and reflections symbolize self-perception and transformation. Circles and orbits, used in visual design to emphasize unity, repetition, and interconnection. These motifs enhance the film's messages without overwhelming them, providing aesthetic reinforcement of thematic layers. Thought Balloon 7. Lasting impressions, a story with depth. Elio leaves viewers not just entertained, but moved and reflective. Its strongest thematic contributions include emotional vulnerability as strength, difference as a bridge, not a barrier, the power of empathy to unite diverse communities. By grounding its cosmic scale in emotional truth, the film ensures that its themes resonate long after the credits roll. Bullseye conclusion. Elio, 2025, is a thematically rich and emotionally intelligent film that explores identity, communication, empathy, and belonging in profound and accessible ways. The story never feels burdened by its messages. Instead, they emerge naturally through character and experience. With its layered themes, symbolic storytelling, and heartfelt sincerity, Elio delivers a timeless message. Glowing star, you don't have to be the smartest, the strongest, or the chosen one. You just have to be real. It's a message that resonates with all ages, especially in a world where identity and connection are increasingly complex and valuable. Elio, 2025, visual effects and CGI analysis from a third-person perspective. Though Elio, 2025, is a fully animated Pixar feature, It employs digital visual effects and CGI techniques with the finesse, depth, and realism often reserved for live-action films. Unlike hybrid or partially animated films that blend practical effects with CGI, Elio uses its digital canvas to full creative advantage, constructing alien worlds, characters, and phenomena that are not only visually breathtaking but intimately tied to the film's emotional and thematic core. Milky Way 1. CGI as world-building, immersion through design. The visual effects in Elio are primarily used for world-building, to craft the communiverse, its alien architecture, environments, and life forms. From planetary atmospheres to floating orbs of galactic data, every visual element has been designed to feel organic, immersive, and emotionally reflective of Elio's experience. Globe showing Europe, Africa, Earth versus space. Earth scenes are rendered with soft textures, muted lighting, and subtle environmental realism, grounded in detail to make the ordinary world feel personal and relatable. The communiverse is a sprawling display of digital imagination. Surreal landscapes, shimmering textures, non-Newtonian physics, bioluminescent plant life, and transparent gravity-defying structures. These visuals immerse the viewer in a realm of the unfamiliar while maintaining aesthetic consistency. Artist palette, art direction integration. The CGI doesn't feel over-rendered or hyper-realistic. Instead, it's stylized in Pixar's signature visual language, expressive but textured, fantastical but coherent. This helps the CGI enhance immersion rather than distract from it. Alien Monster 2. Alien design, VFX that serve character. One of the standout uses of CGI in Elio is the design of its alien species. Each alien character is crafted not just for spectacle, but for emotional readability and cultural symbolism. Textures and movements. Aliens feature a wide range of skin types, slimy, glowing, stone-like, gaseous, and each is animated with motion physics that reflect their biology, showcasing Pixar's high-level simulation work. Facial animation. Despite being non-human, the aliens are emotionally expressive. This is where CGI excels. Their faces and movements are stylized enough to connect emotionally with the audience while remaining otherworldly in form. This approach maintains immersion and builds empathy, a crucial thematic goal of the film. Rocket 3. VFX in action sequences, controlled spectacle. Though Elio is not an action-heavy film, it includes visually intense sequences that showcase Pixar's VFX mastery, such as Elio's abduction, a transport scene, a psychedelic, color-warped vortex of stars and light fractals, reminiscent of 2001, A Space Odyssey but through an animated lens. Communiverse Council holograms. Interactive data visualizations float and pulse with energy, serving both narrative exposition and aesthetic flair. Floating architecture and gravity-defying sequences. Seamlessly integrated into the film's spatial logic, these effects feel fluid and believable thanks to high-end simulation and lighting design. Importantly, these sequences are paced and rendered in a way that never overwhelms the viewer, keeping the focus on Elio's emotional reactions rather than just the spectacle. Shooting Star 4. Emotional CGI, visuals reflecting inner state. A remarkable achievement of Elio's visual effects is how they are often emotionally symbolic, reflecting Elio's mental and emotional state. When Elio feels anxious or overwhelmed, the environment distorts subtly, colors intensify, camera angles tilt, and lighting becomes surreal. In moments of clarity or emotional honesty, the visuals soften, light glows warmer, and elements move in graceful synchrony. These choices demonstrate that CGI in Elio is not merely decorative. It is used as a storytelling language, expressing emotions and themes visually rather than verbally. Electric Light Bulb 5. Practical versus digital, fully digital but practically grounded. While there are no practical effects in the traditional sense, since this is a fully animated film, Pixar simulates practical realism using CGI techniques. Lighting physics, naturalistic shadows, global illumination, subsurface scattering, and reflections give objects a tangible presence. Camera behavior, depth of field, lens flares, and even handheld-style shakiness are simulated digitally, giving scenes the feel of live-action cinematography. In other words, while Elio is 100% CGI, it mimics the visual grammar of practical filmmaking, making it feel grounded and cinematic. Right-pointing magnifying glass 6. Technological craftsmanship, Pixar's digital prowess. Pixar's continued investment in cutting-edge rendering technology is fully visible in Elio. Real-time rendering tools improve lighting adjustments and allow for more responsive shot development. Procedural animation for alien motion and environmental reactions enables highly dynamic scenes without sacrificing realism. Volumetric effects like cosmic fog, holograms, and energy pulses are used tastefully, adding depth and ambience without clutter. This technological mastery ensures that every CGI element serves both narrative and visual harmony. Chart with downward trend 7. Overuse or distraction. At no point does the CGI in Elio feel distracting or excessive. There is a restraint in how visual effects are used. They serve the story, not dominate it. They reflect character emotion, not just action. They create immersion, not visual noise. In contrast to many blockbuster films that over-rely on CGI spectacle, Elio proves that digital effects can be poetic and intimate, even in a story of cosmic proportions. Bullseye conclusion. Elio, 2025, showcases Pixar at its finest in terms of visual effects and CGI artistry. From breathtaking galactic vistas to emotionally expressive alien characters, the VFX are used not just to build a believable universe, but to deepen the audience's emotional experience within that universe. Every detail, from lighting to animation physics, has been carefully crafted to enhance immersion, mood, and meaning. The result is a visually rich film where digital effects don't just entertain, they communicate. They make the invisible internal world of a young boy visible on a cosmic scale. Elio doesn't just look incredible, it feels honest, because its visuals are born from emotion, not excess. Elio, 2025, set design and locations analysis, from a third-person perspective. Although Elio, 2025, is a fully animated film, it features some of Pixar's most thoughtful, stylized, and emotionally resonant production design to date. Every location, whether grounded on Earth or imagined across the cosmos, is created not just to house the characters, but to reflect their emotional states, deepen the themes of the story, and immerse the audience in the duality of Elio's internal and external journey. The design work feels meticulously intentional, making each set not just a background, but a character in itself, supporting both narrative and atmosphere. Globe showing Europe-Africa 1. Earth-based settings, the mundane made emotional. House with Flower Elio's home, and Earth life. The film opens in a modest suburban environment, which feels both cozy and confining. The design of Elio's home, particularly his bedroom, is a visual reflection of his imagination and isolation. His room is full of handmade crafts, drawings, posters, and creative clutter, signaling a child with a rich inner life who lacks external understanding. The color palette here is muted, grounded in warm earth tones and soft shadows, suggesting a quiet, emotionally static world that Elio longs to break out of. Woman #microscope Olga's government facility. The science lab where Elio's mother works is more sterile and structured, a visual representation of logic and control. It serves as a contrast to Elio's emotional, chaotic creativity. Hallways are long, metallic, and often empty, reflecting emotional distance, both physical and psychological, between Elio and his mother. Together, these Earth locations provide a baseline of normalcy that makes the contrast with the alien world more pronounced and emotionally more meaningful. 2. The Communiverse, visual world building on an intergalactic scale. The set design of the Communiverse is one of the most inventive and symbolic achievements in Pixar's design history. Each alien location is designed not only to dazzle visually, but to support Elio's emotional and thematic arc. Classical building the Galactic Council Chambers. A stunning architectural space, vast and cathedral-like, with glowing symbols, floating platforms, and shifting geometries. This location feels both awe-inspiring and intimidating, matching Elio's feelings of being small and unqualified. The scale of the set dwarfs Elio, reinforcing themes of insignificance and self-worth. Over time, as Elio grows in confidence, camera angles and framing of this location shift, creating a new sense of balance and power. Alien biomes and cultures. The Communiverse is comprised of diverse planets and regions, each designed to reflect the personality, philosophy, or communication style of the alien species who inhabit them. Some environments are crystalline and reflective, others gaseous and amorphous, and others lush and bioluminescent. This variety emphasizes the film's theme of universal diversity and emotional expression across cultures. Each alien society's environment reflects their emotional resonance, such as a race of beings who glow brighter as they empathize, or a plant-based civilization with living architecture that responds to mood. The depth and care taken in the design of these locations help viewers emotionally and intellectually grasp alien life through symbolic visuals, not just dialogue or exposition. Milky Way 3. Symbolic and metaphorical set design. One of the standout aspects of Elio is how its environments mirror emotional and thematic states rather than just acting as passive scenery. Examples. Isolation vastness. Elio's first moments in the communiverse feature wide, open corridors and empty starlit halls, reflecting his emotional disorientation. Honesty warmth. As Elio begins to embrace his role and speak truthfully, the environments around him light up, using color, brightness, and spatial balance to echo his inner clarity. Feared claustrophobia. When facing judgment or rejection, the sets shift subtly to feel tighter, more angular, and shadowed, illustrating internal anxiety. These design shifts ensure that the visual environment grows with the character, turning the film's space setting into an expressive, evolving world tied directly to Elio's growth. Dizzy 4. Visual cohesion, a blended universe. Despite the contrast between Earth and the alien world, the film maintains visual cohesion through color progression. Earth uses warmer, familiar tones, while the communiverse employs cool, ethereal colors. As Elio grows, these palettes start to blend, symbolizing his reconciliation between the two worlds. Lighting transitions. Gradual changes in lighting reinforce the shift from the mundane to the cosmic without feeling jarring. Design language. Curves, spirals, and circles repeat across many environments, reinforcing the idea of interconnectedness and emotional continuity. These elements keep the viewer grounded, ensuring that the transition between drastically different environments feels fluid and natural. 5. Creative use of props and objects. Props in Elio are often symbolic or emotionally functional. Elio's handmade artifacts, drawings, models, voice recordings, are callbacks to his desire for expression and storytelling. Alien devices are not just futuristic. Many react emotionally, responding to Elio's words or state of mind. Floating memory orbs, empathy translators, and emotive architecture reflect how even inanimate objects in this universe are extensions of feeling, reinforcing the film's central message that emotion is the real universal language. Bullseye conclusion. The set design and locations in Elio, 2025, are deeply tied to the emotional narrative, serving not just as backdrops but as reflections of character, theme, and transformation. From the intimate clutter of Elio's bedroom to the luminous expanses of the communiverse, every space is a carefully constructed expression of mood, identity, and story. This isn't just world-building for visual spectacle, it's world-building for emotional storytelling. Pixar's animators and designers have created a universe where every corner, every planet, and every room carries narrative weight, reinforcing Elio's journey in both symbolic and sensory ways. In short, Elio's environments don't just look fantastic, they feel real, because they speak to the heart. Elio, 2025. Dialogue and script analysis, from a third-person perspective. In Elio, 2025, Pixar once again demonstrates its mastery in crafting dialogue that balances humor, heart, and philosophical depth. Written and directed by Adrian Molina, the script doesn't rely on dense exposition or overly complex language to tell its story. Instead, it excels through emotionally authentic, character-driven dialogue that reveals personality, theme, and inner conflict, often in very subtle ways. The result is a screenplay that feels personal and universal, full of warmth and discovery, while never losing its narrative clarity or emotional impact. Speech Balloon 1. Naturalistic and age-appropriate dialogue. At the heart of Elio is an 11-year-old boy who's both emotionally intuitive and socially awkward. The script captures his voice in a way that's sincere, at times quirky, and often touching. Elio's speech feels like a real child's voice, full of curiosity, nervous energy, and wonder. He often says things he doesn't fully understand yet, which makes his emotional evolution feel authentic. There's a recurring sense of uncertainty in his words early on, which gradually gives way to clarity and confidence as the story progresses, a transformation mirrored in the dialogue's tone and rhythm. Supporting characters, especially his mother Olga and various alien beings, speak with distinct voices, allowing the script to reflect a broad emotional and cultural range. Performing arts 2. Emotionally charged moments. One of the strengths of the script is its ability to use dialogue not just to deliver information, but to carry emotional weight and deepen relationships. Small Orange Diamond Elio and Olga's conversations. Their dialogue is often marked by tension, miscommunication, and unspoken love, especially in early scenes. As the film progresses, their interactions shift from practical and distant to emotionally open and heartfelt. A key line during their eventual reconciliation. "I've always been listening, Mom, just not with the words you wanted," encapsulates the film's central message about emotional communication. Small orange diamond, Elio's declaration to the Alien Council. This scene stands out as one of the script's most powerful. Elio delivers an unscripted, vulnerable monologue about what it means to represent Earth, not as someone perfect, but as someone honest. The line, "I don't know all the answers, but I know how it feels to be afraid, to be alone, and still show up. Maybe that's something worth listening to," becomes a defining emotional thesis for the entire film. These moments resonate because they are grounded in truthful, character-specific emotion, not abstract platitudes. Face with Tears of Joy 3. Humor with heart and wit. While Elio is emotionally deep, it never forgets to be funny, often in clever, character-based ways. Elio's awkwardness in the face of bizarre alien customs leads to genuinely funny exchanges, made more effective by the script's dry humor and timing. The aliens themselves are a rich source of humor. Their misunderstandings of Earth culture create comedic setups that also reinforce the film's message about perspective and diversity. Notably, the humor never undercuts the emotional moments. Instead, it serves as a release valve that keeps the film accessible and emotionally balanced. Examples of subtle wit. An alien misunderstanding of sarcasm leads to a hilariously literal treaty. Elio naming alien beings after things he knows on Earth. "You look like a squishy cactus, I'll call you Spike," adds both levity and charm. 4. Thematic expression through dialogue. The script is layered with subtext and thematic reflection, especially around communication, identity, and emotional truth. Rather than stating themes outright, the dialogue reveals them organically. Elio's struggle to speak for himself becomes a metaphor for the difficulty of being emotionally honest in a noisy world. The alien's search for meaning in human behavior often provokes philosophical insights, like when one says, "Your species is confusing. You apologize when you mean thank you. You smile when you're hurting. Maybe truth sounds different on Earth." This blend of curiosity and observation turns the film's dialogue into a mirror for the audience, encouraging them to reflect on their own forms of expression and miscommunication. Pushpin 5. Standout lines that define the film. Here are some memorable lines that capture Elio's spirit and emotional power. Elio, to the council. "Maybe I wasn't chosen. Maybe I just showed up. But sometimes, that's the hardest thing." Olga, to Elio. "You were never the wrong person. I was just afraid to let you be the right one." Alien elder. "In our world, we honor those who feel deeply. It is the rarest strength." Elio, to himself. "I thought the stars were far away. Turns out, I was looking from too far inside myself." These lines work because they combine poetic simplicity with emotional depth, a hallmark of Pixar's best writing. Writing hand #6. Overall writing quality. From a craft standpoint, the script's pacing and structure are expertly executed. Dialogue is tight but never rushed. Exposition is natural and well hidden, often emerging through conversation or Elio's inner monologue. Each character has a clear voice, even in brief interactions. The result is a screenplay that feels alive, relatable, and emotionally articulate, even while operating within a high-concept sci-fi narrative. Bullseye conclusion. The dialogue and script of Elio, 2025, reflect Pixar's ongoing excellence in character-driven storytelling. It's a screenplay that favors emotional truth over flashy banter, and authentic voice over overwritten drama. Through subtle humor, powerful confessions, and simple yet profound observations, the script gives voice to a story about identity, vulnerability, and the power of honest communication. It is this balance, between heart, wit, and wonder, that makes Elio not just an animated film, but a deeply human experience, grounded in words that truly matter. Elio, 2025, Dialogue and Script, Deep Dive Analysis from Third-Person Perspective. The script of Elio, 2025, is one of Pixar's most narratively ambitious yet emotionally grounded efforts. Written and directed by Adrian Molina, the screenplay thrives not on fast-paced plot mechanics or excessive action, but on emotionally resonant dialogue, thematically rich interactions, and thoughtful, character-driven storytelling. The dialogue, while accessible to children, carries layered meaning for adults, managing to balance childlike sincerity with mature introspection. It speaks to themes of identity, emotional courage, and cross-cultural understanding, all while remaining rooted in personal relationships and quiet moments. #1. Elio's dialogue, innocence, growth, and self-realization. From the beginning, Elio's lines reflect a character who is emotionally complex yet socially unsteady. His dialogue contains a mix of daydreaming imagination, maybe aliens do get bored, what if they binge-watch Earth from space? Social discomfort, it's not that I don't like people. I just don't think they like me first. Growing self-awareness, I keep thinking I need to say the right thing, but maybe I just need to say my thing. His language evolves over the course of the film. Early in the film, Elio speaks in fragmented thoughts, trailing sentences, and rhetorical questions, capturing his internal uncertainty. Mid-arc, his speech becomes more curious, observational, and reactive as he engages with alien cultures. Climactic speech, his delivery is structured, powerful, and sincere, reflecting self-ownership and confidence. This progression is subtle but effective. By the end of the film, Elio doesn't just speak, he connects, using his words not to perform, but to communicate truth. Woman #microscope 2. Olga Solis, the voice of reason and emotional distance. Elio's mother Olga is a scientist and single parent, and her early dialogue reflects practicality over sentiment. You'll be fine, Elio. Just breathe and focus. It's not that complicated. Emotional detachment. She speaks in clipped sentences and rarely acknowledges Elio's feelings directly, a defense mechanism hiding her own vulnerability. But over time, her dialogue softens, particularly after Elio is taken. He's out there because I wasn't in here with him. I should have been listening, really listening. The evolution of Olga's dialogue supports a subplot of generational emotional healing, a theme Pixar has rarely explored this deeply between a mother and son. Alien Head 3. Alien dialogue, perspective, curiosity, and cultural reflection. The alien species in Elio are not written as comical caricatures or technical spouting cliches. Instead, their dialogue blends formality, curiosity, and poetic observation, often acting as a philosophical foil to Elio's emotional nature. Examples. You vibrate with conflict. On our world, that sound is sacred. You must be feeling something very true. Earthlings speak in riddles. You apologize for existing, yet you declare war over pride. These lines allow the script to reflect Earth culture from a neutral, thought-provoking angle. Create intellectual and emotional tension without aggression. Build characters who are emotionally intelligent in unfamiliar ways. The alien dialogue also plays with syntax and rhythm, creating a slight alienness that feels intelligent, not confusing. It helps make the communiverse feel rich and multidimensional, while keeping the conversations grounded in human emotion. Thought Balloon 4. Thematic depth through conversation. Rather than relying on exposition or visual montage to deliver meaning, Elio often explores its core themes, such as identity, acceptance, fear, and emotional courage, through dialogue. Noteworthy conversations include Elio and the Council, where Elio admits he isn't a chosen leader, just a scared kid doing his best, challenging traditional notions of leadership. Olga and the General, where she must defend her belief in emotional intelligence over protocol, showing her growth from rigid logic to human empathy. Elio and a sentient alien plant, a scene written in metaphor, where the plant shows its feelings through color while Elio learns to read emotion like sunlight. Such scenes advance the narrative, expand the universe, and deepen the themes, all through smart, restrained writing. Counterclockwise Arrows 5. Dialogue rhythm and emotional cadence. The film's script has a carefully crafted emotional rhythm. Dialogue isn't constant. Moments of silence or minimalism are used strategically to let viewers absorb visual and emotional subtext. Create pauses that feel real and necessary, especially during conflict or grief. Allow nonverbal reactions to carry weight. This pacing helps the dialogue land harder when it's used, a technique reminiscent of Wall times E, Soul, and Inside Out, where silence is as powerful as speech. Memo 6. Script economy and efficiency. Pixar's scripts are famously lean and efficient, and Elio is no exception. There's no filler dialogue, no over-explaining. Every line either reveals something about a character, builds a relationship, advances the theme or plot, evokes a reaction, laughter, reflection, or empathy. This level of precision makes Elio's screenplay highly efficient without ever feeling cold, a hallmark of great animated storytelling. Glowing Star 7. Most memorable and defining lines. Here are some of the most resonant, quote-worthy lines that define the soul of Elio. I didn't come to teach. I came to feel. That's how we learn, right? Elio's accidental wisdom becomes a unifying moment across species. Some truths don't fit into words. That's why we invented stars. are spoken by an alien philosopher during a quiet stargazing scene. I'm not the voice of Earth. I'm just one heart. But I promise it's real. Elio's declaration during the climax, bridging emotional honesty with diplomatic vulnerability. You were always enough. Even when I wasn't ready to see it. Oh, Olga's heartfelt admission. Both an apology and a recognition of growth. These lines aren't just memorable. They encapsulate the emotional and philosophical core of the story. Bullseye conclusion. The dialogue and script of Elio, 2025, are among the most emotionally intelligent and thematically profound in Pixar's modern canon. Instead of relying on grandiose language or flashy one-liners, the film builds its world and characters through subtle, sincere, and symbolically rich writing. The dialogue resonates because it feels true to the characters, honest in its emotions, and timeless in its message, about what it means to speak, to be heard, and to represent something larger than yourself simply by being yourself. In essence, Elio teaches that the most powerful words don't command, they connect. Elio, 2025, a genre execution, from a third-person perspective. Pixar's Elio, 2025, is a genre-blending animated feature that combines science fiction, coming-of-age drama, light comedy, and emotional family storytelling. While it draws from familiar genre traditions, such as space exploration, alien encounters, and personal growth, it also subverts expectations in meaningful ways, delivering a story that feels both thematically universal and narratively fresh. Rather than relying on action-heavy tropes or epic space battles, Elio chooses intimacy, emotional vulnerability, and philosophical engagement as its narrative engines, a daring move that ultimately elevates the film above genre clichés. 1. Science fiction, subdued spectacle, elevated emotion. White heavy checkmark genre conventions it follows. The film features traditional sci-fi hallmarks, alien civilizations, space travel, interplanetary politics, advanced technology, and futuristic environments. The mistaken identity plot, Elio being confused for Earth's ambassador, echoes classics like The Last Starfighter or Galaxy Quest, providing a light-hearted entry point into the genre. Counterclockwise arrows how it subverts expectations. Elio avoids the high-stakes warfare, military space fleets, and tech jargon typical of mainstream sci-fi. Instead of focusing on external conflict, the film turns inward, treating the galaxy as a mirror for Elio's emotional journey. The alien species are not threats or obstacles. They are emotionally nuanced beings with cultures designed to challenge human assumptions, not conquer them. Bullseye impact. This genre execution creates a more reflective and emotionally intelligent kind of sci-fi, where discovery is internal and diplomacy is rooted in empathy, not strategy. The film honors the spirit of science fiction, expanding the imagination, but filters it through a deeply personal, humanistic lens. 2. Coming of age, a classic arc with a cosmic twist. White heavy checkmark genre conventions it follows. Elio starts off as an awkward, imaginative, misunderstood boy who doesn't fit in at school or at home, a classic outsider setup. He is thrust into a new environment where he must find his voice, prove himself, and discover who he is, all trademarks of the coming-of-age genre. Parental tension, especially with his mother, is used to frame emotional development, a staple in the genre. Counterclockwise arrows how it subverts expectations. While many coming-of-age films emphasize social acceptance or personal triumph, Elio shifts the focus toward emotional literacy, interspecies empathy, and philosophical growth. Elio's hero's journey isn't about defeating an antagonist or winning over peers. It's about learning to speak truthfully, feel deeply, and listen courageously. The alien environment, instead of being chaotic or threatening, acts as a safe space for introspection and learning. Bullseye impact. Elio redefines what it means to come of age, not as a conquest or victory, but as a process of deepening one's relationship with the world and with oneself. Face with Tears of Joy 3. Humor are soft, intelligent, and organic. White heavy checkmark genre conventions it follows. Like many Pixar films, Elio includes accessible, character-based humor that appeals to both kids and adults. The alien misunderstandings of Earth culture provide consistent comedic moments without veering into slapstick or parody. Counterclockwise arrows how it subverts expectations. The film does not rely on punchlines, pop culture references, or comic relief sidekicks to inject humor. Humor arises naturally from character contrast, such as Elio's awkward attempts to explain human behavior, aliens who interpret Earth metaphors literally, miscommunications that lead to surprisingly wise insights. Bullseye impact. The film's humor reinforces its central theme of emotional communication. Laughter becomes a form of connection, not distraction. This restrained and smart comedic tone gives Elio a more mature and timeless appeal. Performing Arts 4. Drama, introspective and emotionally grounded. White heavy checkmark genre conventions it follows. At its heart, Elio is driven by personal conflict, a boy who feels unseen by his parent, struggling with self-worth and identity. The tension between Elio and Olga provides the emotional backbone of the film, allowing for dramatic scenes of confrontation, grief, and eventual reconciliation. Counterclockwise arrows how it subverts expectations. There's no melodrama or manufactured conflict. The drama feels gentle, internal, and realistic, echoing the likes of Inside Out and Luca more than dramatic thrillers. Even the Alien Council, which might have become antagonistic in a lesser film, is treated with measured compassion and curiosity, avoiding the cliché of a villainous or bureaucratic interstellar force. Bullseye impact. By prioritizing emotional truth over spectacle, Elio builds a kind of slow-burning drama that lingers in the heart. It encourages reflection rather than adrenaline, making it suitable for both thoughtful children and reflective adults. Hourglass with Flowing Sand 5. Pacing and balance of genres. Elio successfully juggles multiple tones, including wonder through cosmic exploration, tenderness in family relationships, curiosity in alien interactions, and humor in cultural misunderstandings, all while maintaining a steady narrative thread. The balance is delicate but well executed. Emotional beats are given space to breathe. Humor never undermines sincerity. Sci-fi elements don't overwhelm the character journey. Pixar ensures that genre never overshadows the human story at the center of the film. Crossmark clichés avoided. Elio avoids or cleverly reworks common genre clichés, such as chosen one tropes. Elio isn't the chosen hero, he's mistaken for one. And that mistake becomes his strength. Destructive aliens. The communiverse is intellectually curious, not warlike. Overbearing parents. Olga's complexity avoids turning her into a trope. She's flawed, but evolving. Comic sidekicks. No animal companions or mindless comic relief characters dilute the story. Glowing star conclusion. From a genre perspective, Elio, 2025, is a bold, heartfelt, and thoughtful subversion of sci-fi and coming-of-age norms. Rather than leaning on spectacle or predictable arcs, it opts for emotional honesty, imaginative storytelling, and a focus on empathetic communication across cultures, human and otherwise. It doesn't just succeed within its genres, it expands them, proving that sci-fi can be introspective, coming of age can be cosmic, and animated stories can challenge philosophical ideas while still being accessible and deeply moving. In essence, Elio is a film that wears its genre lightly but uses it powerfully, reminding audiences that sometimes the biggest journeys happen inside the smallest voices. Elio, 2025, social and cultural commentary from a third-person perspective. Pixar's Elio, 2025, may present itself as a whimsical intergalactic adventure, but at its heart lies a rich tapestry of social and cultural reflection. Beneath its cosmic storyline and coming-of-age framework, the film provides a gentle yet powerful critique of how humanity engages with identity, communication, inclusivity, and emotional intelligence in an increasingly complex and fragmented world. Director and writer Adrian Molina subtly infuses the film with relevant cultural undertones, avoiding heavy-handed messaging while still encouraging deep reflection on topics like empathy, otherness, generational disconnect, and global unity. Globe with Meridians 1. Commentary on emotional communication in a divided world. Perhaps the film's most resonant cultural theme is its critique of how modern societies struggle to communicate authentically. Through Elio's journey, the film draws attention to how emotions are often misunderstood, suppressed, or mislabeled, especially in children. The communiverse becomes a metaphor for social media-era miscommunication, where meanings are lost in translation, and external appearances don't always match internal truths. The Alien Council's initial confusion about Earth's behavior, war and kindness coexisting, apologies masked as strength, fear mistaken for aggression, mirrors real-world misunderstandings between cultures, ideologies, and even generations. Bullseye effectiveness. The metaphor is brilliantly subtle. Without naming modern technology or politics, the film invites audiences to consider how misunderstanding drives division, and how emotional honesty can become a tool for peace. Rainbow 2. Representation and inclusivity without labels. Elio is a triumph in quietly radical representation. The characters and the world reflect modern diversity without drawing attention to it as an issue or topic. Small Orange Diamond Elio's identity. He is a brown-skinned, bilingual Latino boy raised by a single mother, a rare lead character archetype in animated mainstream cinema. Yet his ethnicity and background are not reduced to stereotypes or turned into a cultural lesson. His identity is simply a natural part of the story. Small Orange Diamond, the Communiverse. The aliens represent a literal spectrum of forms, communication styles, and emotional expressions, a sci-fi allegory for neurodiversity, cultural difference, and gender identity. Some beings do not communicate verbally, others glow or shift shape with mood. The film frames these differences as inherent strengths, not curiosities or threats. Bullseye effectiveness. By crafting a story where diversity is not the theme but the default reality, Elio models an inclusive world without tokenism or oversimplification. This subtle execution makes its social statement even more powerful and lasting. Woman #Boy 3. Generational disconnection and healing. One of the film's most emotionally complex themes is the disconnect between Elio and his mother, Olga, representing the broader challenge of bridging generational gaps in a high-pressure, achievement-focused world. Olga, a driven scientist working for a secret government project, sees Elio's sensitivity and imagination as weaknesses. She speaks in data and logic, while Elio speaks in feelings and metaphor. Their dynamic reflects the modern tension between emotional intelligence and intellectual rationalism, where younger generations crave to be understood beyond measurable success. The film doesn't villainize either side. Instead, it shows both mother and son learning to meet in the middle, through vulnerability and listening. Bullseye effectiveness. This subplot is one of the film's strongest forms of commentary. It's a universal issue, shown through authentic dialogue and quiet catharsis, rather than dramatic conflict. It suggests that empathy, not authority, builds bridges between generations. Handshake 4. A metaphor for diplomacy and global citizenship. Elio, mistaken for Earth's ambassador, is thrust into a role of unintentional diplomacy. He represents Earth not with knowledge or credentials, but with openness and sincerity. This narrative setup allows the film to critique traditional ideas of leadership and qualification, suggesting that heart and truth can carry more weight than hierarchy or status. Emphasize peaceful cultural exchange in a world and universe often driven by fear of the other. Promote the idea that true connection comes not from power, but from vulnerability and understanding. Elio's monologue to the Alien Council becomes a stand-in for what global diplomacy could be if rooted in shared emotional experience rather than political positioning. Bullseye effectiveness. The allegory is clean and layered. The film doesn't reference real-world politics, but its implications, from the UN to interfaith dialogue to climate cooperation, are clear to adult viewers, without alienating younger audiences. 5. Handling complex topics with emotional intelligence. While Elio doesn't tackle explicit issues like war, discrimination, or climate change, it engages with the emotional undercurrents beneath all of them: fear of the unknown, mistrust, shame, loneliness, and belonging. Even when discussing Earth's violent history, the film doesn't blame or shame. It asks how misunderstanding shapes behavior. Elio's arc teaches that growth doesn't come from knowing the right answers,